No surprise is the best surprise. I want to tell you a little bit about what you're going to see when you go to your parish church this weekend, things that are a little different from the normal. The first one, of course, is the most obvious. You're going to be receiving palms that are blessed, and you will take those to your home, and they'll be a sign of peace for your family. As soon as you enter the church, you may notice that all the statues and all the icons and the different images in the church will be covered. They'll be covered usually with violet veils. And the reason why we do this is that we don't want any distractions during Holy Week. And so instead of having all the statues everywhere and people being distracted by these different images, we cover the statues, and we don't decorate the church very much during Holy Week. Number two, the priest color, or the color of the vestments that we will use, is red instead of purple, as we've done throughout all of Lent. And the reason for that is, once again, to emphasize the passion of the Lord. Red, of course, is the color of blood. That's the color that we use, the predominant color in our churches. And some of the crucifixes may also be veiled in red instead of purple on Palm Sunday and right up to the Easter Vigil. The third thing, this is the only Mass throughout the year where we actually proclaim two Gospels, not one, but two. The first Gospel, which recounts the time that Jesus went into Jerusalem and was honored as the King of Kings by many, and they took olive branches and palms, and they placed them in front of him, and they worshiped him as their king. So that gospel is proclaimed at the very beginning of our Mass. And the regular gospel is a rather long one, and it actually is the account of the Passion of Christ. And this year, because we're in the B cycle, account is from St. Mark. Now you say, well, why do we read the Passion on Palm Sunday if Jesus wasn't crucified until Good Friday? Well, the fact is that the Church wants us to remember these episodes in his life, these different events that happened, whether it's the Last Supper or the suffering or the dying on the cross. And because they want us to reflect specifically on the Passion of Christ throughout all of Holy Week, they actually proclaim the Passion as we begin Holy Week. So those are the three things, the main things that you're going to see. No surprise is the best surprise. One final thing about Palm Sunday and what it means to me. I often wonder, when people are worshiping the Lord as their king and so on, and then later on they seem to abandon him. I often wonder where the person was who was healed, the blind man, for instance, or the person who was lame, or the person who had leprosy, or the people who were forgiven their sins. Where were those people when Jesus was in trouble? They all seem to disappear. We never seem to see them during the Passion account, do we? And that teaches me a lot about how sometimes we can be disappointed by other people. We may help them in many ways, or we could do things for them. We don't do it just to get their approval. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and the Lord expects us to do it. And so whether we get approval for them, or whether later on they're not even going to call us by our name, doesn't really matter, at least it shouldn't. We'll be hurt by it, but I'm sure Jesus must have felt a much greater hurt. And he even said to his Father, my God, why have you forsaken me? And what he also probably was saying was, and my people, why have you forsaken me? For a while you thought I was your king, and now all of a sudden everyone has deserted me. And so oftentimes it should be a lesson for us that when we do good things for people, we do it for the love of Christ and for the love of the people. We don't do it for any ulterior motives. If we do it for ulterior motives, then we're going to be terribly disappointed. So what I wish for you this weekend and this week, the following week, which is what we call Holy Week, it's really the most sacred week of the year, is that you reflect on the Passion of Christ and that you learn from his passion and death that what is important is that the right thing is done, the will of the Father is done, and then one day, if we do that, we will enter into eternal life, not with the crucified Lord, but with the risen Lord.